Greetings, Fire Chargers, Darkblade here. In this video, I will be reading through part of the Ultimate French Review and Practice 2nd edition and seeing what I can find. So the organization is nouns are introduced in chapter 13, or should I say unit 13, on page 129. We learn what important stuff we need to know about them. So this guide clearly was not made for someone like me who is heavily unfamiliar with French. They tell us how French verb conjugation they're presented in paradigms that summarize the forms that the verbs have in each tense. Verbs change their forms for person and number. Interestingly enough, Japanese verbs don't do that, and Chinese and I think also Vietnamese verbs don't change form at all. Japanese and Korean do, but the person and number aren't factors in that. Verbs are said to have three persons: the speaker, the person spoken to, and the third person, referring to neither the speaker nor to the person spoken to. French, like English, has two numbers, singular and plural. The persons of the verb and their corresponding pronouns in English are as follows. There's first I, we, you, he, they. And in French, it's je, nous, tu, vous, il, elle, on, ils, elles. By the way, I'm sorry if I mispronounce any of these French words. I don't know which letters I am or am not supposed to silence in many of these cases. English has only one word. French has two. Tu is a singular and is informal. It is used to address one person with whom you have an informal relationship. Family member, a close friend, a fellow student. Vous is both the plural form of tu and a formular singular form. So a literally TV distinction. It is used to address one person with whom you have a formal relationship, a stranger, customer, a colleague at work. And also, let's see, this changes from Latin. So je was originally ego. I don't know how that works. What happens there? This is tu, which is originally tu, and this il, elle, on. Well, these parts I don't know about on, but the il and elle part, as well as ils and elles, will probably come from the Latin demonstrative pronouns or adjectives ile, illa, illud, which means that, according to the chapter 13 of the Everything Learning Latin book by Richard E. Pryor. Nous, that comes from nos, and vous, that comes from vos. They tell us that French has no word for it. All nouns, whether masculine or feminine, are referred to as il or elle. There's masculine nouns such as le jeune homme, and le crayon are referred to as il, while feminine nouns like la femme and la ville are referred to as elle. By the way, these articles, le and la, are also from ile, illa, illud, according to that book. Femme comes from the Latin femina, and jeune, I don't even know what this means in English. Homme means man and comes from the Latin homo or homines. Homines. Homo homines. And will, I assume that comes from the Latin villa, which French makes, by the way, it'll explain on later on, I think on the very next page, yeah. French makes a gender distinction between the third person plural. Ils refers to masculine plural nouns, where elles refers to feminine plural nouns. Ils also refers to groups of males and females, while elles refers to groups consisting of females only. So a mixed gender group takes the masculine. French is one of the languages that does that, and so is Hebrew, and in fact, a lot of other languages do that. Où sont Martin et Elisabeth? Ils sont là. Où sont Caroline et Anne? Elles sont là. The pronoun on has two main uses in French. On is used as a general subject similar to the English one, people, you, they, or the passive voice. So it's kind of like indefinite in a way. On mange bien à Paris. People eat well at Paris. Literally, this thing is pronoun, like indefinite pronoun. Someone eats well in Paris. Ici on parle français. Here, someone speaks French. I'm using someone as a placeholder. In contemporary French, on replaces nous in everyday speech and writing. Note that even when on is used to mean we, it takes a third person singular form. Toi et ta famille. Vous restez en ville. Are you and your family staying in town? You and your family. To you and to your family. You rest in village. So you can guess quite a lot based on what is this? English cognates. Non, on part en vacances means no. Oh, we're leaving on vacation. Part, I am assuming that comes related to the part. I'm assuming that comes related to partir in Spanish. There are 3 different patterns in French for verbs to take. And these are the regular ones. The present tense of a regular verb is formed by dropping their infinitive ending, er, ir, or re. Same infinitive endings in Latin, are, ere, and ire. And adding the appropriate ending. Forms of the first conjugation, verbs, are conjugated like parler. To speak. I don't know about if there's any special correspondence pattern between the the 4 conjugation patterns of Latin and these 3 in French. Well, it's kind of like 4.5 because there's a third conjugation eo verbs, which technically are still a third conjugation. They follow the third conjugation forms with their active and passive infinitives, but in most of their other forms, they act like fourth conjugation verbs. So in the first person, it just removes this and adds e, and second conjugation s adds es. In fact, the second person singular personal ending in Latin is also an s. and the third conjugation is, the third person singular is e. I'm guessing that's derived from the original Latin et, but apparently the T had already become silent by the time French last updated the way its words were spelled. Ons. I think it's pronounced ons. This is. Let me see. I think that might be related somehow to the Latin mus and on. ENT, the Latin third person plural ending was NT as well, and as easy. Vous parlez. On mange. Here's some common air verbs. Again, I don't know if there's any correspondences between the Latin and French conjugation patterns, because accepter, I think, probably comes from accipio, accipere, which is third conjugation, but aime comes from amo, amare, which is first conjugation. And this is probably the biggest one because look at how many they list. Verbs of the second conjugation ir are conjugated like finir, to finish. And it looks like in all of these ones the letter I from the ending stays. So they add an S in the first and second person, a T in the third person. These are for the singular forms, and for the plural forms they add these same personal endings ons as ends, but they add an additional ISS in between the stem and this ending. Finissons, finisses, finissons. By the way, because of sound changes, many of these final letters are been silenced. So that's probably why French isn't pro drop, because parler and because the first and third person singular forms are identical in the first conjugation, first and second are identical in the second conjugation, and even the ones that aren't spelled identically are also pronounced identically. There's the third conjugation. These are the re verbs. They're conjugated like rondre, to give back. So they just drop the re and add s for the first and second person singular, and for the third person singular they just use the stem. And again, for the plural it's the same pattern, ons as ont. And they note that if the verb begins with an vowel or mu h, the je, that means I in the first person plural, becomes je. J'arrive, j'entends, j'habite. So that's all that I'm going to do here. Actually, I want to do some more. So this basically just reminds us what this pronoun on means. Most verbs of the third conjugation re have a stem ending like in d, in vendre. The few that don't end in d, such as rompre and interrompre, add t in the third person singular. So, and that would be And you can see many of these end in R, ND specifically. So attendre, I think this might be etymologically related to the English attend, but it clearly means wait for. Confondre, that there's you get confound. Defendre, which might be confused with defend, but it actually means forbid. Interrompre, mordre, perdre, probably Spanish, perdi. Vendre, possibly related to vendor. Tordre, to twist. In fact, the Latin word meaning twist is actually where we get the English word torture from. So, pretendre means to claim. An example of this is like how there are these people called pretenders who claim that they're the rightful king of a nation. So that's where I'm actually going to end it. Goodbye, Fire Judges Dark Blade out. Make sure to like and subscribe.